All right, in this video, I'm going to take the opportunity to really examine the tactics of a certain disinformation network that is operating on the internet, and there are many of them, but just going to focus on this specific one. And it is principally led by one Dyer in this case, who for some reason left this comment on my video that I just recently reposted. And I didn't go to Jay Dyer's YouTube channel and leave a comment. I didn't go to his website and troll him. I didn't do anything other than put his name right here amongst these other names. And then out of the blue, when this video had like 5 views, I get this comment from Jay Dyer that says, "Nice lumping me in. So because Chris made a list of blogs he likes, we are all interrelated and disinfo. Quote, it's all interrelated, unquote, LOL." Now, first of all, we're going to get into the more specific ways that they manipulate or attempt to manipulate perception and with their various talking points when we go over a interview that they recently all did together on the afternoon commute. But first of all, I didn't name Jay Dyer because Chris listed him on his blog roll. No, Jay Dyer is a monthly guest on their afternoon commute show, and he calls in to the Hoaxbusters calls from time to time. So he is being actively promoted by them, by the afternoon commute, and he's heavily involved in it. So it's not just because Chris listed him as a website of interest. So you can see right from the get-go that there is, he's appealing to ridicule, and there is deception in that ridicule in the first place. But as is usual, let's zoom out a little bit and get the big picture first before we go back in to the specifics. And we'll come back to this comment too, where I go over all of his connections and everything that goes along with that. So first, I want to start with a website, redefininggod.com. And this is one of the few websites / blogs that actually has a clue about what is happening right now. And I would recommend that, especially if you know somebody who's kind of new to all this and is still kind of stuck in the lower levels of the alternative media, this is a good one that you can give them to help them start to see the bigger picture at work here. But so this article is "The New Multipolar World and the Golden Age. They're Not What You Think They Are." And this right here is what I wanted to get to. "The multipolar / multilateral New World Order is the New World Order the globalist banking cabal have been planning all along. But you don't have to take my word for it, take theirs." Here is an article straight from the IMF website. "The Global Village, Connected World Drives Economic Shift. Global Crisis Requires Supranational Solutions, says IMF's Lagarde. As the world becomes ever more multipolar and interdependent, multilateral solutions are needed to fight the risks and reap the rewards of integration. So a global crisis that the globalist bankers engineered requires supranational solutions. Note that the globalist buzzwords multipolar and multilateral are also prominently featured." Here is an excerpt from the foreword of a World Bank report titled "Global Development Horizons, 2011 Multipolarity, the New Global Economy." "In short, a new world order with a more diffuse distribution of economic power is emerging, thus the shift toward multipolarity." And multipolar shows up again. How can this be? And here is a small portion of the results you get when you search for the word multipolar on the Bank for International Settlements website. And there's all these multipolar world articles and links, etc., which are the internal white paper documents that they kind of publish between themselves. If you comb through the archives of these bankster-run organizations, you will find no plans related to an Anglo-American Nazi New World Order. You will find, well, I guess this is Nazi Zionist combining those two words together. You will find plans only for the globalized, multipolar New World Order that is currently being birthed. They have been actively implementing these plans since the IMF created the SDR back in 1969. There never was going to be an evil Anglo-American New World Order because the globalists are globalists. They want a world empire, and the only way to persuade people to live in such an empire is if you convince them that all nations within it are on equal footing. The multipolar, multilateral model does that. The evil Nazi/Zionist New World Order was never anything more than a public relations golem they conjured up for the dialectic manipulation of the population, which is absolutely 100% the truth. That is what they did. As I wrote in an old entry titled David Wilcock and the Real New World Order, it is really very simple. The Illuminati built a rabbit trap in the BRICS alliance that looks like a nice safe hole to hide from danger. Now they are beating the bushes with the Western powers to drive the rabbits towards the trap. And yeah, that's exactly what they're doing. And that explains the entire alternative media from InfoWars to Zero Hedge and down the line, from all the other sources that take their information and regurgitate it and then present it as their own. And of course, Zero Hedge and InfoWars are just taking mainstream news and spinning it in this anti-Western way. It explains the entire alternative media, right? They're trying to actively propagandize you into believing that America and by extension its allies in Europe are this evil, the most evil thing that has ever existed, and it must be destroyed. And a part of that is destroying the, as he says here, the golem, the thought form in your mind about America. And if you look around right now, they've successfully done that. The entire world, even people that aren't into conspiracy theories, is at this point, with the reality television election we just had, they are fully aware of the corruption in the United States government. And then you have this is why Pizzagate is also coming out now, because they are adding on to this evil caricature that they are painting for the Western quote-unquote New World Order, right? They're leaking the information about the pedophile rings at the highest levels of power in America. And that is a part of this agenda to paint America in that way and its government in that way, because they want people to lose faith in their government and in all of the institutions that have existed as a part of America, because they're trying to dismantle it, to bring America down, to level it out with especially the East, that they are now rising up with the BRICS. And so everything is a level playing field within the United Nations infrastructure. And as a part of that, as Ken says in another article, as a part of that, the likely solution that will come about will be all of the current quote-unquote powers of the United Nations that have a veto power, that will be removed as a part of whatever crisis they create, where they say, okay, now we need to remove this veto power and everybody will be on the same footing. And then there really will be no more national sovereignty, and none of the countries that are part of the United Nations will be able to veto any of its actions. And that's where you get into really kind of, I guess you would call them, outcomes down the line where America is, policed by the blue helmets like many other parts of the world are, right? So this is kind of just another little thing that he wrote about understanding this dichotomy. And well, before I get to that, I just wanted to read this paragraph from Homeostatic Equilibrium, where I was talking about the Constitution and the Treaty of Paris and how America really started. And there's a quote from Manly Hall about Francis Bacon and the New Atlantis, right? Because why would they call it the New Atlantis? Because it's drawing on that myth of the prior Atlantis, which of course rose to great heights and then was destroyed. And you see, so they call America the Great Atlantis or the New Atlantis because it was designed from its beginning, inception, to rise to great heights and then be destroyed like the old Atlantis, which is currently in the process of taking place, right? So the purpose of the illusory narrative distilled by the mystic empire of the wise was to establish an imperial vehicle, the United States of America, through which a singular culture and corporate regulatory structure could be seeded throughout the world under the guise of freedom and democracy, a systemic perceptual upgrade from the pre-existing relationship between serfs and their king. And if you look around now, they succeeded in this agenda. They used the United States and its military empire to colonize the world, and not only by physical force, but through cultural manipulation by inserting all of the corporations into countries around the world, and by extension, our culture being injected into those foreign countries. You know, they have sort of homogenized a world culture at this point. Everybody has a television. Everyone consumes the same sort of propaganda, even if it's not an American movie or television series. So that part has succeeded, and now we're in the stage where, okay, America was used to achieve those goals. And of course, there's American military base in pretty much every country around the world. It's full spectrum dominance. And now it's about ceding that empire's power back to the rest of the world through the United Nations infrastructure and the IMF and the World Bank, of course. From an advertising campaign perspective, the public relations team for the British monarchy would have never been able to convince the world to willingly assimilate the necessary systemic programming like the former colony that supposedly won its freedom, and thereafter saved the world from the quote-unquote evil Axis powers during World War II, was able to. The genius of this narrative is that the same imperial vehicle can now play the role of the scapegoat as this intelligence formally consolidates its system into the United Nations infrastructure. Hence the alternative media tasked with exposing the evils of the US-fronted West, from the 9/11 inside job to the machinations of the banksters to the creation of the imaginary terrorists known as Al-Qaeda ISIS. And as we'll see, Jay Dyer is playing a pivotal role in this process because it'll be easy to point out all of his connections and all of his shady dealings. But to the, let's say, neutral observer who is just consuming the information, they might say, well, I think this is good information. How is it disinformation? Well, we're going to get to that. So going back to redefining God, the two New World Orders. The key to understanding the globalist strategy in implementing the New World Order is to understand that there are actually two New World Orders, a Western-fronted decoy New World Order and a BRICS-fronted real New World Order. Once you understand how and why the globalists created them and played them against each other, all of the confusing information floating about the mainstream and alternative media will start making sense. And of course, this is why so many of these fake websites in the alternative media promote Vladimir Putin as the savior of the world, right? He has compared the image that's been crafted for Putin with the image that was crafted for Obama, right? I mean, they're just diametrically opposed. And that's by design. And then you have the whole Donald Trump thing where he is, you know, they're actually talking about him repairing relations with Putin. And I don't know which way, there's all sorts of theories, you know, out there about which way they're going to take the Trump presidency, but none of them are going to be good. So we'll just have to see how they eventually play the script out. You know, we know there's a script. It's just, I don't have the advanced pages, and you can speculate, but I have, you know, speculation will get you nowhere a lot of the time. But the Western-fronted decoy New World Order, this evil, menacing New World Order is supposedly being constructed by the US and the EU, but it has never really existed as anything but a media construct. It is much like the fake army of inflatable tanks that Patton commanded prior to the Normandy invasion. There is no real substance to it. It was created as a propaganda prop to serve as the dark side in the play the globalists are putting on for the public. They even gave it a dark-skinned figurehead for dramatic flair. When you listen to the many faux truthers in the alternative press, it is this decoy New World Order to which they point as they make their fearful predictions in order to create an emotional reaction within their viewers, readers, listeners. They portray it as an evil Zionist Nazi neocon monster that is destroying the world and bringing humanity to the brink of World War III. This is being done so the public will welcome the real New World Order when it makes its move, defeats the decoy, and snatches peace from the jaws of war. Another function of the Western decoy is to serve as the scapegoat for all the damage that was done while the globalists were erecting the real New World Order. And this is what I was talking about, how they have planned America as the new Atlantis to serve this function. By blaming the Western New World Order for all the evils we've seen for the past 100 plus years and then getting rid of it, they are hoping the real New World Order will start with a clean slate in the public eye. You will know you're listening to a controlled opposition faux truther figure talk about the decoy New World Order when he or she uses words with the prefix uni, such as unilateral. And then, of course, there's the leader of them all, InfoWars. Putin to Western elites, playtime is over. A unilateral diktat and imposing one's own models produces the opposite result. And then, of course, there's Press TV. Putin says Russia will never succumb to unipolar world order. And then, not to leave out Zero Hedge, linking to Paul Craig Roberts. See, Paul Craig Roberts is a perfect example of what they do with these characters, because when you first get into the alternative media, it's like, oh, former Treasury Secretary under Reagan, or I don't remember if that's what he was, but he was involved in their, in his cabinet somehow. He was involved in the administration somehow. And then that supposedly lends credibility when he's out there saying Washington is impotent to prevent Armageddon, and he's just ripping America and just supposedly tearing it to shreds like, oh, this guy was in there, now he's telling the truth. So, of course, you'll know they're talking about the decoy also when they use the terms Western elite, Nazi, Zionists, and neocons when identifying its builders. The BRICS-fronted real New World Order, the emerging United Nations-based BRICS-fronted New World Order, is the real New World Order the globalists have been working towards since the last vestiges of the old world. This is a tongue twister saying New World Order over and over again. The last vestiges of the old world order fell after World War II. My apologies. Russia-China alliance could launch New World Order. This BRICS-fronted New World Order is nothing more than the old United Nations complex with a phony under new management sign hanging in front. You will know that a commenter is talking about this real New World Order when he or she uses words with the prefix multi, such as multilateral, the coming multilateral world order from the Atlantic, of course, a propaganda outlet. Russia isn't a pawn on America's chessboard. The hegemony long employed, this is from RT, of course, and go figure, right, that Russia today is so heavily involved in the alternative media. They're right up there with Zero Hedge and InfoWars. They're all, propagating the same bullshit. The hegemony long enjoyed by Washington with the support of its allies is now being challenged by a multipolar consensus around the world. In this multipolar world, every state enjoys parity, equal respect, and security under international law. And national sovereignty is returned to the status of an inalienable right, as enshrined in the UN Charter, rather than being a gift in the hands of the United States, the EU, and NATO. And then he just I'll link this below. He just goes into, how multipolar and unilateral are used in all of these white papers and the official websites of, the IMF and the Bank for International Settlements. So, now let's go to Jay Dyer. And he is a special, quote-unquote, special contributor to 21st Century Wire. But he's, there's a quote, let's see if I can find that. Yes, here we go. So this is Jay Dyer writing in an article, and he says, 21st Century Wire has been identified at the top of a list of fake news sites as a psyop to create an algorithm for filtering. I take that to heart since I write for 21st Century Wire. Facebook, Google, and other DNC partners have listed numerous right-wing sites as well as satire sites and ours. Oh, the incredulousness that they listed ours, right, as fake. Of course, the real reason for this is explained in my video, outlining the absurdity of the most astounding liars on the planet, the mainstream media, calling us fake. Ultimately, this is an attack on all independent media. So, as we'll see, Dyer has a penchant for really pointing out the evils of the mainstream Western media, which we'll see how that ties into what we were just going over about the multipolar versus unipolar, fake New World Order versus BRICS-fronted, UN consolidated reorganization of the corporate infrastructure. Her list was made to place it at the top. It's the best site on the list and is the only one that has been to Syria. I like how he puts that in quotation marks. Like, yeah, did that really happen? And met with Assad and blasted the white helmets away as a propaganda front. 21st Century Wire is subject to constant DDoS attacks. Of course, controlled opposition always feigns that they're being attacked by you know, the clandestine operations of the Western governments, right? And the intelligence agencies, they're always under attack. And of course, they're never, I guarantee you, this site has never been DDoS attacked. That's a bunch of bullshit. Oh, and regularly does real journalism. 21st Century Wire is edited by accredited journalists, frequently featured on radio and television. So do you see the hypocrisy and cognitive dissonance that they put in your mind there? Like, on the one hand, this website is totally focused on dismantling the mainstream Western media, right? And everyone that's on radio and television. And then, in the next breath, they say, to give themselves their own credibility, they say, 21st Century Wire is edited by accredited journalists, frequently featured on radio and television. Like, what? Oh, man. That is why it is targeted. The list could have put the numerical listings at the end, blah, blah, blah. So we go down to 21st Century Wire. And of course, they have a tagline because these front groups are very heavily into marketing and advertising. They all use the same playbook. 21st Century Wire is news for the waking generation. Oh, that sounds so great, doesn't it? Founded in 2009, the same year that Zero Hedge was founded, we are a North American and Europe-based grassroots independent hyperblog, whatever that means, offering bold news, views, and media analysis, working with a core team of writer-researchers and an array of volunteer contributors who write and help analyze news and provide a diverse perspective and opinions from around the world. 21st Century Wire writers have appeared internationally on TV, radio, and in print, as well as keynote speakers at leading alternative conferences and events. Oh, it all sounds so great, doesn't it? Besides demonstrating freedom of speech and thought, one of the main intentions of 21st Century Wire is to empower readers by giving them the tools to decode mainstream propaganda. Inspired by brave and independent news sources like UK Column. Oh my gosh, UK Column is pretty much run by Brian Garish. He is a known disinformation agent. I don't know who that's behind. Zero Hedge is disinfo to the hilt. And actually, I don't know if you know this, but Daniel Evanginski is supposedly the brains behind Zero Hedge. And but it came out not too long ago. I will have to, maybe I should have dug that up before I started this, but it's supposedly run by him, and his father is. I'm gonna save Zero Hedge for another. Maybe I'll get this stuff out at some point and bring it back up. But well, suffice it to say that a British banker and a Eastern European PhD, I guess we can call Daniel Evanginski's father. Well, Daniel supposedly the story is he came to the United States and got involved in the stock market and then was banned, and then he started Zero Hedge, right? But with total bullshit. Anyway. So this is 21st Century Wire. It's all a bunch of garbage, as we will see, because when we go to let's see, where is their about section? Here we go. 21st Century Wire team. Patrick Henningsen. Now, for those of you who don't know, Patrick Henningsen used to work for InfoWars. Sean Helton, associate editor, used to work for InfoWars. So we have two quote-unquote former InfoWars employees who now came out and started 21st Century Wire. And this is the same same publication that Jay Dyer is a special contributor to, right? So there you go. I mean, you don't really need to go any further than that as far as 21st Century Wire is concerned. All you got to do is go read all of any of their webs, the stuff they put out or whatever. All they're doing is talking about the evil Western elite, and that's their goal. They like Zero Hedge and InfoWars. It's all designed to discredit that aspect of the agenda. So Jay Dyer is also a contributor to The Soul of the East. And if you can believe it, just recently, November 15th, 2016, this is The Esoteric Message of Hollywood. Katehon, I don't know how that's pronounced, but we'll get to that in a second. Think Tank with Jay Dyer. Pro-Eurasian think tank Katehon conducted a brief interview with Jay Dyer about his newly released book. The author of the popular title Esoteric Hollywood, Sex, Cults, and Symbols in Film, Jay Dyer explains the links between conspiracy, mass culture, and geopolitics. Now, the crazy thing is, there's no actual interview that takes place here. It's just like a press release from Jay Dyer in 3 paragraphs about, his book. But you can see, here we go, there is a strong connection between the American film industry and intelligence. They are the flip sides of the same coin in many cases. And if we go back in history to the invention of the camera itself, it was used for military propaganda from the beginning. Hollywood in our day thus exists as a means of propaganda to give us new myths, just like the ancient Greeks gave us a mythology of how to understand the world. Hollywood is the new myth maker. It is therefore crucial for the government to be involved in crafting messages of pop culture. The CIA, for example, is largely involved, not just in foreign entanglements and drug trafficking, but in culture creation. That's the primary aspect of their role, much of which is very toxic. So you see, Jay Dyer is in a little niche of exposing the West in that he's focusing mainly on Hollywood and the CIA and how that is relating into the geopolitical environment that we were discussing on Redefining God's blog about how the Western, European, United States, NATO environment is responsible for all of this, right? And he's kind of being filtered through that in that way. But you will not believe, so I'm just going to say Katehon because that's easier for me to describe. So this is the Katehon website about us. Katehon Think Tank is an independent organization consisting of an international network of people from a wide variety of fields and disciplines who specialize in the geopolitical, geostrategic, and political analysis of world events. The group consists of political thinkers, international relations researchers, experts in security and counterterrorism, and journalists concerned with international affairs, geopolitics, ethnopolitics, and interreligious dialogue. Here we go. We at Katehon clearly defend the principle of a multipolar world, and thus we fundamentally support a pluricentric worldview defined by an international balance of powers. We reject and challenge any kind of unipolar world order and global hegemony. Well, how interesting is that, right? That the think tank that Jay Dyer is being promoted by is saying the very exact same things that we were just going over about unipolar and multipolar. Wow, isn't that interesting? Yeah, you're done, Jay Dyer. Therefore, we pay special attention to global multipolar associations such as BRICS and Shanghai Cooperation Organization. All of our fellow contributors hold firm to the main principles of the Continentalist School of Geopolitics. In addition, we stress the importance of religious and cultural identities in international relations, and so we closely monitor the ethnic dimension in social processes, conflictual situations, and agreements. So, and then they finish here. We at Katehon understand our mission to be one that seeks to assist in the creation and defense of a secure, democratic, and just international system, free from hegemony, violence, terrorism, persecution, slavery, and extremism of any kind. Oh, it sounds so wonderful, doesn't it? Just the way that they promote Putin doing the exact same things. And you could go spend all of your time researching all of these clowns that are a part of this think tank, and you'll see that they are globalists in the same way that all of the American think tanks are proliferated with these characters. But the most interesting contributor is Alexander Dugin, who is the resident philosopher, much like Jay Dyer fancies himself a philosopher. And Alexander Dugin is a known former associate of Vladimir Putin, and is quoted as saying, "What Russia needs," says Dugin, "is a genuine, true, radically revolutionary, and consistent fascist fascism. On the other hand, liberalism is an absolute evil. Only a global crusade against the US, the West, globalization, and their political ideological expression, liberalism, is capable of becoming an adequate response. The American empire should be destroyed." And you can see how Dugin is just playing his part in this little theater production and saying the very thing that we're talking about, the new Atlantis. Yes, America needs to be destroyed, and that's all a part of the agenda. So yes, and of course, Jay Dyer has had Alexander Dugin on his show, and I don't know if I have it up. I thought I did. Ah yes, The Liberal American World Order, Professor Alexander Dugin on Jay's Analysis. So here you go. Jay's Analysis is promoting this character who is a part of Katehon, who is talking about all of the things that we are talking about, as far as the BRICS and the new world order that is being constructed around us. And then you go to articles like "Warmongering Western Media is Fake" by Jay Dyer, and then he goes through the whole thing. And, oh, this part's great, where he, once again, in his own article, draws attention to Chris Kendall, so you can see how they are cross-promoting each other. And we'll see how the Fakeologist network is kind of being merged into this one through Jay Dyer, and the whole thing is just so transparently fake. I don't see how you can have any other conclusion after going over what we've gone over. And then, of course, finally we have the fact that Jay Dyer just recently appeared on Sean Stone's show on, it's called Buzzsaw TV. And in case you didn't know this, Sean Stone is the son of Oliver Stone, and their real surname is Silverstein. And Sean Stone got his start acting in his dad's movies. And if you look at Oliver Stone's movies, they are all whitewashes of everything that has ever happened in America, from JFK to 9/11 to Edward Snowden. So, of course, Oliver Stone is not to be trusted, and his son is not to be trusted, who wrote a thesis at Princeton on the New World Order, right? This is supposed to give him credibility somehow. And he got his start in the alternative media working with Jesse Ventura. And then he branched out on his own. So this is the guy that Jay Dyer was recently in studio with, promoting his book. So they were promoting his book, and he got this nice new headshot from it, right? Oh man, what a joke. So yeah, it's obvious what's going on here. And of course, Sean Stone is, if I was going to say that any of these guys would be tied into the intelligence agencies, I would say Sean Stone, because of his father, who, was also supporting, Chavez. Yeah, right. He was telling the true story about Hugo Chavez, right? So that would actually fit the profile of a CIA agent who, was going overseas to actually collect, in Hollywood, who was going overseas to actually collect intel. Posing as Chavez's, friend, trying to, with the selling point that he would give him the documentary that would, show his true nature, right? But so going back to this comment, so there's Jay Dyer, nice lumping me in. Now we see kind of the duplicity and ridiculousness of this comment. So because Chris made a list of blogs he likes, we are all interrelated and disinfo. So my response was, okay, speaking of interrelations, let's run them down. We've already gone over one. Contributor and collaborator with Patrick Henningsen of 21st Century Wire, former InfoWars correspondent and a known disinformation outlet. And Patrick Henningsen's also been on RT, so he's being cross-promoted by all of these familiar gatekeepers. Frequent guest on Red Ice Radio. frequent guest on Chris Kendall and John Adams' Afternoon Commute, guest on Oliver Silverstein's son's Buzzsaw TV, contributor to the Secret Space Program conferences, yes, another known disinformation outlet, contributor to Soul of the East, that's where all of that stuff about Katehon and all that came in. And then we didn't get to this though. One of the original hosts that signed on for known disinformation outlet Natural News' Talk Network, which also included Mike Adams, Adam Kokesh, and Rebecca Roth. Oh, and given the above 6 facts, don't give us some story about how you left for ethical reasons and switched to alternate current radio, which features Patrick Henningsen, Brian Garish, and David Icke associate Richie Allen. When David Icke and Associates ran their massive scam known as The People's Voice, David Icke and Richie Allen lived together, and this is the same Richie Allen that Jay Dyer now shares the network with. It would take too long to list the rest of your tours around the podcast circuit and your other affiliations, but of course, at first glance, it's obvious that you are all interrelated, blah, 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 for myself. Moreover, surely a man of your great intellect would not be so easily fooled by these disinformation outlets, and surely a man of your great integrity and truth-revealing prowess would never want his work associated with known disinformation agents and their alternative tabloid rags, right? And this goes back to kind of the persona that they create for these characters, where they're these great truth tellers, right? Well, if you're this great truth teller standing up for the little guy and you have all this integrity, well, surely you wouldn't be associated with all of these disinformation agents. And if you're as smart as you proclaim yourself to be with all of that education you have, wouldn't you be able to see that pretty easily, right? So there are only 2 logical conclusions here. Jay Dyer is an agent, or Jay Dyer is a con artist who saw an opportunity to jump in the truth hustle and charge $5 a month for watered down bullshit esoteric analysis of film, which subsequently required a constant whoring of himself out to any conspiracy show with a pulse in order to scale his brand. Now, of course, obviously, it's probably both of these things. He's an agent, and they're using that tactic to make him more popular. Because if you look at the connections to Soul of the East and it just would make more sense that he would somehow be involved in this. So what is Jay Dyer's response to all of that? Calcified Lies is outed. Ha ha ha, my work stands on its own. Oh, it does, huh? All you have is as homonyms. Was Jay drunk when he left this? He might have been. He doesn't usually make spelling mistakes like that. All you have is as homonyms and loose connections. Oh, yes. What we just went over were loose connections. And accusations of people you don't know. Yeah, I don't know any of the people, but that has nothing to do with the fact that you're still affiliated with them. It's like, oh, what? Because you talk to them, that means that they're not affiliated with all of these known disinformation outlets? Okay. So that's Jay Dyer's response. Of course, just like Simon Shack to this video, he doesn't address any of the fake evidence that he puts out there. It's just, oh, total ad homs. To me, like this one from Fakeologist, who responded to this video again. I don't know why he felt the need to respond to it again, but past guest Steve has resurfaced, doing his best to obscure the truth by stating the World Trade Center collapse footage was likely real. He says why fake it's too hard, interdimensional weapons, blah, blah, blah. That's a total misrepresentation of what I was discussing in the video. Clearly, he needs to reread Simon's thread with fake evidence as to why it's Occam's razor, why they'd fake it to control it. Past pod brats seen in the comments section congratulating themselves. They are the real disinfo trolls assigned to this insignificant blog. Yes, he sounds very upset in this in this post. But yeah, I got the pod brats on my payroll now, so they're trolling around my 12 YouTube videos and 5 or 6 blog posts that are getting so few views, right? They gotta regulate, you know. So this is the part I want to get to now. Jay Dyer and the Fakeologist Disinfo Network. We're gonna deconstruct what they responded to my video.
Esoteric Hollywood, which actually is the name of Jay Dyer's book, which is out now. Mm-hmm. And Chris, you have a copy of it, right?
That's correct.
In your hand? I believe you're actually holding it right now.
Not holding it right now. It's at my nightstand being read.
And
So it's on top of Mein Kampf and Mein Trump on Chris's nightstand.
Mein Trump. That's funny.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
between My Little Pony book and Mein Kampf.
Everything is just so funny, isn't it? Ah,
Mein Little Pony.
Mein Little Pony. But yes, as you heard there, our guest is Jay Dyer. Joins us on a regular basis to talk all things worldly. And
to shill our disinfo and disinfo our shilling.
Now you see, right out of the gate, after he left that comment on my video, this is the first recording that this must have happened like a couple days after. Notice how they're immediately trying to make it seem like it's such a joke. Oh, we're just shilling. We're shills. You know, they turn it into this comedic thing, right? To deflect from any sort of, focused inquiry into what they are actually doing. And you'll see this continue here.
You go to jaysanalysis.com, check out all of his fine publications and audios. In fact, I was just listening to, I've been listening to podcasts recently because I had some stuff go on, but catching up, and I heard the last two with you and Tim Kelly, which I just talked to Tim yesterday, and those last two were really good. Yes, Jay's got a lot of good audios and a lot of good articles. Make sure you check those out. Mr. Dyer, how are you, sir?
Just shilling and putting out disinfo.
See, there it is. Now he says it a second time. Oh, it's so ludicrous that someone as erudite and educated of a philosopher as Jay Dyer would actually be putting out disinformation.
Yes.
Like you guys do. By the way, the reason I say that is I came across a YouTube guy who made a video that includes all of us, and it says that we are all a network.
Oh, yes, that's so very funny. Now, of course, he's trying to use the fact that I called it a disinformation network as some sort of ludicrous thing, like, oh, we couldn't possibly be all a part of the same network. And it's like, well, yeah, the alternative media is compartmentalized just like the military is. They don't all have the same handlers, but they are all working towards the same goal. And so regardless of whether or not Jay Dyer's handlers are the same as Chris Kendall's and John Adams is irrelevant, right? They're promoting each other. So, therefore I'm going to include them in the same network now, regardless of the fact that Jay Dyer had really nothing to do with Fakeologist or Simon Shack for, however long he was on the internet until like last year.
And that we're all in some way kind of run by Fakeologist, which I've never...
See, he's insinuating something that I never said at all, which is that he was run by Fakeologists. No. Let's go down. Let's use some logical deduction here. Simon Shack puts out demonstrably fake evidence. This evidence is fake. It's clear. So then you have Fakeologist, which is promoting Simon Shack, and which has been shown through my video that this evidence is fake. And not just my video, there's all sorts of other information out there showing that Simon Shack's evidence is fake. So by deduction, Fakeologist is supporting fake evidence. They must be a disinformation agent just like Simon Shack. Same goes for anybody else that supports Simon Shack in the face of all of these clear, warning signs. Like, at least anybody that's real should be like, oh man, I have some doubts about this. And that includes K. Hamad. And K. Hamad supports Simon Shack without question, no doubt. And who did K. Hamad recently go visit? Well, K. Hamad went and visited Chris Kendall. And Chris Kendall, in addition to having Simon Shack on his show at one point, was also, he's tied into the whole network through Marcus Allen. And they're all, now Chris Kendall is, unlike Jay Dyer, Chris Kendall has always been a part of this network. And he's tied into it through Marcus Allen, who was the fabricated enemy of Fakeologist and Simon Shack. So they were all working together WWF style. So by deduction, it is easy to say that these people are all a part of the same network, right? And now Jay Dyer is trying to use that to distance himself from the network by saying, "Oh, I've never had any interaction with fakeologists." But that is irrelevant because you now have a ton of interaction with Chris Kendall and John Adams, right? So your point is totally moot at this stage.
Interaction with that guy at all. I think they've linked me a couple times, but I have no idea who fakeologist is. Never talked to him, but because Chris has me linked and that linked, we're all
see. And there he goes again. Because Chris has me linked on his post. No, you see the deception, the duplicity right there. You're on his radio show trying to say that it's only because Chris linked you on his blog roll. Like, give me a break.
Linked, and there's a network of us, and it's all a Disinfo network.
I don't know who the guy is, but I'm sure that he's a Jew.
Whoa! And then Chris Kendall out of nowhere says, "I don't know who the guy is, but I'm sure he's a Jew." What? What does that have to... Are you kidding me? I hate to break it to the listener, but no, I am not Jewish. Sorry to rain on your parade there, Chris. Where does that come from?
Well, probably, and he would probably say that we're all run by Jews.
Actually, no, I wouldn't get into the Jewish question like that, because whoever is running this show, eventually you get to the point where you're like, there's something a little more than just some human influence going on here. Anyway, moving on.
Yes.
Regardless of the fact if it is a tribe of people calling themselves Jews who are the street muscle for the whole thing, right?
Well, yes, Chris and I have had multiple conversations with Tim over Fakeologist.
And now John Adams is kind of the handler of the situation. He's going to do some damage control about their relationship with Tim, and it's also transparent.
Tim's a good guy, and...
Tim's a good guy, yeah, Tim is a known supporter of a disinformation agent, but he's a good guy. He sounds, affable. Oh, he's a good guy. This is the kind of low-level shit that they are appealing to. I mean, you have to understand that they're appealing to a target audience that is just, I guess, totally new to all of this and is kind of like doesn't know what to think.
And repost our stuff over there.
Well, there you go. That's confirmed. That guy's right. It's all big network.
There you go. It's confirmed. It's all one big network. See how J-Dyer just makes light of it? Like, oh, yeah, that's just ludicrous.
Yes.
And then they all laugh.
And Tim has even posted your audios, Jay, and some of your stuff, too. So, yeah, even without you knowing you were in the network, you are in the network.
See, and then once again, they appeal to ridicule. They appeal to that classic, like, paranoia of the conspiracy theorist. See, yeah, you were in the network and you didn't even know it, man. Oh, these people are a joke.
Damn it.
Actually, it's financed by HSBC, actually.
Little off-the-cuff comments like that, by the way, from time to time are probably true. Not that one is, but like they like to drop little comments like that deadpan, like in a comedic fashion that are actually true.
I'm not supposed to say that.
Like they always accuse other people of doing what they're doing. That's one of their main tactics. And they'll just drop it deadpan about somebody else, and it's really what they're doing.
The Drug Money Podcast.
Yep.
Drug Money Podcast. There you go. Well, actually, in Jay Dyer's case, given who he's connected with, I mean, shit, who knows where his funding is coming from?
I gotta hear that. I gotta hear the audio. You gotta send that to us.
I meant to. He did like a 2-hour Google Hangout, so I wasn't gonna listen to the whole thing, but I caught enough of it.
I caught enough of it. Yeah, and then there's that whole part of my comment where I'm talking about how did he even find the video in the first place? Like, it was only up for 3 days and I had like 2 views. So how did the great Jay Dyer find this video? Come on. Like, obviously, because everyone else in this network knew about it beforehand, because I linked his name, it just makes no sense. Why would they send him in and draw attention? Why? That was such a mistake. Why did they have Jay Dyer leave a comment on my video? That was dumb.
Can you name the name?
Oh, it's on my history here on my YouTube channel thing. I can find it, but off the top of my head, I can't. I can look and see.
I'm Robert Rayvold. Did you know that?
Oh man, yeah, that's the first time I've ever heard Chris actually acknowledge that. There was I originally saw that on the David Icke forum that on that my September Clues thread that somebody said that Chris Kendall was Robert Rayvold, and like, you know, I approached that like I approach everything else. I was kind of like, all right, I got an open mind. I'll go listen to these two people, and I mean, sure, like, there are people out there that have similar voices and mannerisms that where you could mistake them and say they're, you know, the same person. But like, man, I've listened to a lot of Chris Kendall in the past, and when I heard Robert Rayvold, I was like, holy shit, this, like, the mannerisms and the way he was speaking, it literally sounded like Chris Kendall was using a voice morpher playing this other character. And I mean, if I was running the Disinformation Network, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't have two people running the same voice like that. But I don't, you know, I'm not running it, so maybe they have a good reason to do that. But like I said on the last time I had this video up, like, as soon as they put out an interview together disproving this, I'll stop saying that. But until that point, I think it's obvious that they're the same person. And, you know, he just, again, making light of it. Oh, did you know I'm Robert Rayvold? Like, I mean, think of it this way. Like, okay, if somebody put out a video and said calcified lies is also this voice, and, you know, say the name of the YouTube account was like Joe Smith, and somebody made me aware of this and I found that video, the first thing I would do is go to Joe Smith's channel and say, hey man, this person's saying we're the same people. Can we do like a 10-minute, you know, Google Hangout live and promote it and just say, hey, we're going to do this Hangout so you guys can come listen to us talk at the same time? Like, if you were really concerned about people thinking that, isn't that the first thing you would do? And yet, I mean, that stuff came out like a year ago, and here we are, and they still haven't done any interview together. And even in this case, like, Chris Kendall and Robert Raybould talk about the same stuff. Like, why wouldn't they just do a talk together?
I do another completely different podcast, and I alter my voice.
Well, somebody said I was the anarchist on Corbett's podcast. Corbett did some anarchist.
I thought you were James. You are James Corbett, aren't you?
Okay.
See, and then they make light of the whole thing, right? Oh, you are James Corbett, you know, and then Jay Dyer does his little impression here. Now, I just want to point out the irony of Jay Dyer going into a voice impression here. Like, we're talking about voice actors potentially playing many different roles, and then Jay Dyer shows his prowess, as he has many times in the past, doing voices, right? Oh, I'm such a good impersonator, right?
Hi, folks. You're listening to the Corbett Report with Jay Corbett. Today, we're going to be talking about Gladio. Operation Gladio is something that is definitely real.
That was my on the spot. I've got a bit of a cold, so if my impersonations,
Does that help with
my
your
impersonations are fucked up, it's because I got a cold. By the way, I discover I do a good Larry Nichols. If you want to hear that one.
Oh yeah.
Please.
Yeah.
Yes.
Please do. Yeah.
Well, Chris, I was talking to Hillary. I was on Hoax About the Show 15 years ago, and Hillary is going to witch church. I said, what the hell's a witch church? Chris told me, he took me down there on his broom and rode me to the witch church with Hillary.
That's it, dude.
I'm assuming that you heard the Alex clip with him talking about Hillary at the witch church.
Yeah, I heard. Yeah. Oh man.
All right, I'm gonna find this.
He said Vince Foster got killed because Hillary was having an affair with Vince Foster. Right.
Yeah, actually, that Dean Arnold guy that had me on his podcast wrote a book and says that. Now, I don't know enough about the Vince Foster thing. I don't have any opinion on it, but I don't know. You think that
No.
she's too lesbo or something? Here it is.
I have no idea. I don't even want to think about that.
9/11 Clues Forum, Fakeologists, and Hoaxbusters Disinformation Network. And the YouTube channel is Calcified Lies.
Oh yeah, I heard of him. He used to come on the. I don't know if he's been on the call, but
I've never been on the call.
I'm pretty sure he's been in the chat.
Never been in the chat.
He's been on Tim's podcast.
I have been on Tim's podcast. That's correct.
Before.
Well, of course, you know what happens anytime you have it.
Now, this is where they try to spin it, and I will deconstruct it. Here we go.
Disagreement with
Let me go back. Well, just Jay Dyer starts to say, well, of course, anytime you have a disagreement.
somebody de facto, that means that they're all suddenly disinformation.
See, now what is very interesting about what he just said there is I never had a single disagreement or crossword with Simon Shack, never had a single disagreement or crossword with Tim at Fakeologist, and never had a single disagreement or crossword with Chris Kendall or John Adams. I mean, John Adams didn't even exist at the time when all this stuff was going down. So Jay Dyer is trying to frame this as, oh, I must have had some sort of disagreement with Simon Shack, and then that's why I came out with this video now accusing all of them of being disinformation agents. And it's like, no, I never had any sort of disagreement. I sent Simon Shack an email one time back in the day, like 2014, when I did my Edward Snowden post, and I was just asking him for advice back when I thought he was real, like on, video, like, did I really find a glitch, blah, blah, blah. And in hindsight, he went and kind of obfuscated my research on that. And he put something about Brian Williams having 6 fingers in the shot too. It was about that Edward Snowden NBC special. And so that was our only interaction. And, back in the day when they were trying to incorporate me into their narrative, they had nothing but good things to say about me. So there was never any sort of disagreement. It was simply the fact that I eventually figured out that he was lying to all of our faces and putting out fake information. So Jay Dyer is trying to say, oh yeah, this must be some sort of disagreement, right? It's some sort of like vendetta. No, that's not what's going on here. I have nothing against any of you personally. And if I met you in real life, I would be interacting with you totally different than I am in the fucking Thunderdome of the internet, right? But if you guys are if you're gonna comment on my video, you opened yourself up to this.
Yeah, that happens.
Yeah, that happens. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's interesting.
That's funny. Who's that other dude? I'm trying to.
Now, this is very important. Watch what John Adams does here. So they mention my name, they talk about in the video, and then they talk about disagreements. And now watch what John Adams does.
Think of Ozzy bin Oswald. He always says we're disinfo too.
He brings up Ozzy bin Oswald. So, and then saying he always says we're disinfo too. So the chain of events here is Jay Dyer says, oh yeah, anytime there's a disagreement, well, he mentions my video and my name, talks about anytime there's a disagreement. And then immediately after that, John Adams brings up Ozzy bin Oswald, who has he was the one who first kind of broke the information about Simon Shack's brother being sponsored by the Bin Laden racing team, his Formula One team. But he's had a very contentious relationship with Simon Shack over the years, and there's a lot of animosity there. So he's trying to associate me with critics like Ozzy bin Oswald and that whole theater that's going on between them and Simon Shack.
Yeah, I had a disagreement with him a lot.
And then what does Chris Kendall do? He comes right in and talks about the disagreement that he had with Ozzy bin Oswald. So you see what they're doing here, how they're trying to incorporate my video and criticism into this narrative that I'm just, I must have it out for all these people because of some stupid vendetta, right? No, I'm all about the facts and the evidence here. And as I just showed with Jay Dyer, he's exactly the same as Simon Shack. And I could do the same thing for Chris Kendall and John Adams.
A long time ago. And he was saying that Mark Humphreys was the Harley guy. And I said, no, dude, it's not. And I said, we got a back and forth. And then I don't know if that triggered him or whatever, but ever since then he's kind of been saying or if that's recent. I don't know. I can't keep track of
Yeah,
it.
he goes.
I
Well,
don't
he
know.
goes. I see him on comments. Like I've seen him on comments of Jay post past conversations we've had, and then, or I think on Tim Kelly's stuff too, and it'll be him commenting on there saying, I've never talked to the guy, but he'll just say that say I'm disinfo, which is pretty rare. I never.
Oh, this is the best part where now, after they do that, they go into this diatribe about how, oh, it's so rare that we're accused of being disinformation. Isn't that interesting? Like it's some sort of fluke when it happens, you know? Like, oh yeah, see, this hardly ever happens, so we must be real, right? Well, no, that's not it. It's just the reason is that they're at a higher level of the alternative media. They're giving out more nuanced and complex information uh, to the point where there are, just by a numbers game, there are less people that get to that level, and therefore there are less people that are even capable of pointing out their disinformation, you see? So that's why John Adams starts talking about this.
I mean, like Jay bringing this up, I never really see. I've seen people in the Hoaxbusters chat, saying stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but
It is pretty rare, which is interesting.
Yes, that is interesting, isn't it? You see what he's trying to do there. Yes, that's interesting. We must be giving out good information, and these are all just trolls.
I've only gotten it from a couple people.
Only a couple people. I'm the great Jay Dyer, man. Only a couple people accuse me of being a disinformation agent. Well, I hate to break it to you, brother, but that number is going to increase now.
Yeah, the guy who said you were Ted Turner's son, that was great.
And then they finish up with somebody who apparently accused Jay Dyer of being Ted Turner's son. Just, more appeal to ridicule, like, oh, yeah, that's what we're dealing with here.
Yeah, that one's funny.
And then they end it with a laugh. It's all so funny.
Well,
and then that's the end of that. So, well, and then finally, after that audio, then Tim comes over to Fakeologist and tries to, again, appeal to ridicule Jay Dyer and the Fakeologist Disinfo Network, which is kind of like, again, just not really encapsulating the whole story of what I was saying. And you can see how they attempted to spin my video in all of these ways.